Welcome to No Straight Lines, the podcast that gets real about performance, resilience, and what it really takes to grow, lead, and thrive. This isn't just about the wins, it's about the work, the grit, the setbacks, and the strength to keep going when things go wrong. I'm Lawrence Winmill, your host, an entrepreneur, and someone who's learned resilience through facing some of life's toughest moments. Each week I sit down with leaders from the world of business, sport, entertainment and the community to unpack the moments that shaped them, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because success, it's never a straight line. This is No Straight Lines, stories of the unbreakable. Phil, good morning.
Lawrence, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Welcome to No Straight Lines.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it already.
Brilliant news. Stories of the unbreakable. But before we start, I've kept you waiting this morning, haven't I? So we talk about No Straight Lines. I'm coming to meet you this morning with a plan, and then the plan goes through the window. As Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan and it works well until somebody punches you in the face. Well, this morning, the car punched me in the face and I broke down on the M4. So I'm here, but I'm here via Transport of Wales as opposed to the vehicle. I'm delighted you're with us this morning. Listen, bit of an intro for those people who are viewing. I think you've got a brilliant background, and I'm not just saying that. So your time at the BBC as a broadcaster, we love you in Wales for lots of different reasons, but you're synonymous with BBC Wales, and I know that you've worked with Radio 5 Live, I think it is as well. But also, people will remember you from your pitchside legendary commentary on Scrum 5. Now, it's not all about rugby, Phil. You've had a hell of a journey. And the reason for coming in today is for us to have a chat about your story. And when I spoke to you earlier this week on the telephone, something you said to me is just stuck in my mind. And you said to me very humbly, I keep turning up. Explain that to us, Phil.
Yeah, somebody said it, the world is run by the people that turn up, and I'm one of those. I'm quite good at a lot of things, but I'm not brilliant at anything. But everything I sort of have done over the years, I've always made sure that I do it to the best of my ability, and it's my motivation is I don't like letting people down. So if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll turn up. So I grew up in a Catholic family in Ely in Cardiff. I always say I'm from the rough part of Ely, that's called Ely. Very staunch, and my mum and dad brought me up, and it was always very much about doing your best in school, trying your hardest.
Good values, good
values, that sort of thing. I was a rugby fan from an early age, and my motivation was I wanted to play rugby for Wales. Yeah. So I did my O levels. I got 10 O levels. I got 3 A levels. I went to Cardiff Met University, as it is now.
Clever man.
To be a PE teacher. But I didn't go to college because I wanted to be a PE teacher. I wanted to go to college because I wanted to play rugby for Wales, and that's where Gareth Edwards went, and JJ Williams, and Alan Martin, and all the...
So you're following in great footsteps.
Following great footsteps.
And on that point, because you said you wanted to play rugby, of course I didn't realise, but I think you've said it enough on Scrum 5, and I know when you do your after dinner speaking, you mention it all the time. You played the game at a decent level,
Yeah,
didn't
I played for Glamorgan Wanderers, for Newport, obviously for the college, who played all the first class teams. I played for Welsh colleges, British colleges. I got in the Wales B squad in 1983. Again,
well, that's an achievement.
Yeah, but it's been quite good. But it never be in the tops, you know.
Well, I tell you what is good, and these stats are brilliant, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, won't you? So in terms of just jumping further down the line, when you started the commentary, I think you said that because there's been career changes and all sorts of other things, you can tell us about that in a moment, you did your first live commentary at the age of 38, I think it was?
First live commentary, yeah, at 38.
And then your TV commentary at 45.
45, first pitchside reporter's gig at 45.
But the stat that, for me, that does it all is you, as a 6'3", fly half, I got that right,
Yeah.
with no hair at 21.
At 21, yeah. This is the other thing about my story, Laurie, is I've always existed at a slight angle to the universe.
Yeah.
I was brought up in a Catholic family. When I played rugby for Glamorgan Wanderers Youth, I would be one of the few Catholic blood. I still went to mass. I still served on the altar, as a teenager. That was an anomaly. I lost my hair by the time I was 21. I used to take my passport to matches for Glamorgan Wanderers Youth to show that I was born on the 3rd of June 61 and I was 17 or 18, whatever it was. So there was always that. I was 6'3" outside half, so people would look at me and say, "What position do you play? Flank are you, or second row?" I said, "No, I'm an outside half." "What? You're an outside half?" So it was always sort of that. So if you're talking about resilience, I was always having to swim against the tide.
But you kept showing up.
I kept turning out. The world is run by people that turn up. So I kept showing it. But I was always like sort of slight angle to the universe and having to swim against the tide. So maybe developing resilience without even sort of knowing 100%.
it. 100%. Somebody said to me, it was in a business meeting, and I write about this stuff quite a lot because of my own experience in business. And somebody said to me a few weeks ago at an event, resilience, can you learn it? I said, 100% you can. Because when you have setbacks in life, and they do happen, we've all got our stories to tell, haven't we? There are certain things that you can do to build resilience. And I know about that because I've been through it, and I'm doing it now, in fact. Some of the resilience, this is not about me, but I know that you can. And I think what you're saying in your story, even without knowing it, you may have had it, but you've developed it, you've built it, you've sustained it, you're continuing to do it, because you've had some setbacks, which we can talk about a bit later. But I'm interested, you came through school and college and education, well qualified. And that, I suppose, you tell me, it took you down a teaching route, did it?
Taught for 25 years. I taught up until the age of 47. In 2008, I taught PE for 10 years.
Yeah.
I got bored with teaching PE. I got fed up with being in a tracksuit, chasing after a ball.
Teaching,
I taught, first of all, in Blaenguard Comp in Aberdare, where the late Stuart Cable, jumping up the stairs, played hooker for me in my year.
Was he one of your pupils?
Yeah, one of my pupils, under 13s, under 14s, team hooker. Then I went into Catholic education as a PE teacher in 2 Catholic primary schools.
Right.
St Michael's in Treforest and St Mary's in Bridgend, where I taught Lee Byrne.
Yeah.
Lee Byrne was...
fullback?
Fullback, yeah, he used to play number 8 for me. That's how good a coach I was. I picked him as number 8. But I always knew that sort of, although I could do teaching reasonably well and go on well with the kids, I always knew that there was something else, There was something else. I'd always been like good at leading the singing in college. I could remember words to songs. It sounds a bit trivial now, but I remember words to songs. I had no problem, I used to compare the variety show. So obviously that sort of performer sort of thing was in me. Not that I sort of knew it or not that I wanted to pursue it.
Well, I've seen you, and I've been to quite a few events where you've spoke as an after-dinner speaker, but also because you're still well involved in the rugby world. And I know, in fact, today, after we've done this interview, you're going across to the Arms Park in Cardiff because it's one of the launching pads for the Lions tour, isn't it?
Yeah, they're doing the museum out with Lions memorabilia. Yeah, so
and you're meeting a few of the top guys.
I'll be the only one on the top table that I've never heard of. It's Gareth Edwards and Terry Holmes and Josh Navidi and a few others.
Just a few others,
and Phil Steele from Ely.
And Mr. Steele.
Yeah.
But you know what? The fact that you can still mix in those circles, chair conversations in those circles, and I've seen you speaking at after-dinner events, and in fact I was with you, although you didn't know it, but I was in the room last Friday at Llanach, and a former Welsh international, Neil Boubier, was organising that event. Yeah. And I was watching you that day, and I know this is one of many because you do this for a living now. Yeah. I think there was over 240 people in the room. Yeah. It was hot, it was sunny, there was a lot of people drinking, this, that and the other. But all credit to you, your professionalism just shone through, and you took control of that room. And you had everybody laughing and really reacting and warming up basically to what was about to follow. And you had your hands full because you had Gavin Henson and Adam Jones to deal with as well, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right, that's the interesting thing, So I when you see me there and people look at me, they must think I'm the most confident man in the world, But I'm not.
But that's what I always thought. I know until I've really had a proper conversation with you. people looking at you, they'd be amazed
Yeah.
when you say I'm not confident, because you come across as
Yeah.
Mr. Confident.
Yeah, but I don't see myself. That's just what I do. You know, people say,
Yeah.
"How do you stand up?" More people are afraid of speaking in public than they are of dying, right? That's the Book of Lists, a survey of some years ago. More people are afraid of speaking in public than they are of dying. I've done both in the same half hour. That's even worse. Right? But people say, "How do you do that? How do you get up in front of 200 feet?" I couldn't do it. And I just say, well, it's just what I do.
Yeah.
Like the electrician changes a plug.
Yeah.
I can't change a plug. It's just what I do. I don't see it as any big sort of
It's
deal.
your job.
It's my job, and I get on with it. Now, the interesting thing about lacking confidence is, and I was always like this as a rugby player. If you meet the greats, Jonathan Davis, Jiffy, great guy.
Yeah.
The Ian Bothams, the top of their tree, they've got this sort of unbreakable
Yeah.
confidence. Talk about resilience. Call it resilience if you like. Outward, absolute forceful resilience. If Jonathan missed a kick at goal, he would. I've never played with Jonathan, but I would imagine he would have sort of said that Barry John used to say, "Oh, somebody must have moved the posts. The ball's flat. It's not my fault." It's that unbreakable confidence, you know. If I missed a kick at goal, I'd never want to kick. I'd devastated. Never want to kick again. And this thing about, so I can do 100 good dinners.
Yeah.
Be carried out shoulder high. If I do the one that doesn't go so well, and it might even not be my fault. It might be I'm on too late, or the microphone is not great, or the audience are drunk. That's the one I remember.
Yeah.
But I'll still go along again for the next one next week.
Well, that takes character. It does, because I know the theme of this, no straight line, stories of the unbreakable. I'm glad you quoted people like Jonathan Davis. I've got my own great memories of watching him as a player. Played with arrogance, played with lightning pace, I think, didn't he, as an outside half. Punched certainly above his weight, and played both codes. He broke through into rugby league. In fact, I think as a guy going north, they were all waiting for him. He was it Man of Steel in his first or second season?
Yeah.
But the thing with Jonathan that I remember in his Great Britain Rugby League days was him scoring that try against Australia, and where that confidence came from.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, which resonates with what you've just said.
Yeah, and I just wish sometimes I had that. Sort of unbreakable resilience, outward resilience. But I haven't, and you've got to live with the skills and the mindset that you've got. But I take comfort from the fact that it's probably the reverse side of the coin of being a nice bloke, and I don't want to let people down. And I want people to think good of me, and I'd cringe if I thought something I said didn't upset somebody,
Well, you certainly are a nice guy. I'm not patronising you. You don't need me to tell you that. You are. You generally, and I think that goes back to what you said in terms of your upbringing, in terms of the church, in terms of the community. I remember reading something. I think it was on Wales Online, and it was your story. I think when you, we'll come on to that in a while. But when you stood down from Scrum 5 or a contract ended, you were telling your story. You were talking about your rugby playing career, and something again stood out, which sort of underpins your character and who you are about turning up. Because you said in that article that for you, when you were playing, rugby wasn't about 80 minutes. It was the whole day.
It was the whole day. It was all my memories, sort of off-field memories. It was about the whole. This is one of the reasons I used to love training as well. It was to work all day in school. And it was a chance to go see the boys, have a laugh and interact and whatever. And rugby to me was always the much more than the 80 minutes. The turning up, the getting ready, the getting nervous, and having a bit of banter with the boys, and a few beers and a sing-song afterwards. It sounds very trite and whatever. And maybe that's one of the reasons I didn't make it to the top. That and a complete lack of ability. That's perhaps one of the reasons why I didn't make it further, was because I never had that eye of the tiger. Yeah. I'd go on the rugby field, and no sportsman should ever admit to this, but I will. I'd go on the rugby field, and if I remember playing for the college against Newport. This is the reason I joined Newport, because we on a Boxing Day 1982, my final year of college, we lost 55-15.
Oh my God.
But as a fullback, I came off the field. I'd never enjoyed a game so much in my life, because I had so much to do. you know,
Busy.
catching and loads of chances to
Being
show.
hammered, knocked to the floor.
Knock the floor, get up, run it back at them, you know. And I came off the field thinking, I really enjoyed that, even though we'd lost 55-15.
Yeah.
And that's not the mindset of a top-class sportsman, is it? You know, top-class sportsmen,
Well,
they want to win.
Well, but I can relate to that mindset because I played in lower league football when I was growing up, and on the back of some hammerings, growing up at the Valleys against people like Georgetown from Merthyr, where we lost 20 odd points, 20 goals to nil. Can you believe it? We played one game, we lost 12-1 to Georgetown, but I scored the goal.
Yeah.
I thought it was the best game I ever played in my
Yeah,
life, but we lost 12-1.
Yeah, so maybe I'm not the only one. Cricket as well, I played club cricket for many years, and I'd always prefer, I was a batsman, I'd always prefer to get 50 and we lose than to be out for naught and we won. So
it's not that eye of the tiger.
And the reason to get 50 would be so people would say, well done, Steely, good.
Yeah.
It's that sort of need for
that
approval, you know. The reassurance, yeah.
I get
Yeah.
that, and sometimes I think we talked about this when I first arrived this morning. We were just chatting about speaking, and I've been at events where I spoke as a keynote on business and entrepreneurship. And I said to you, sometimes you can speak in front of audiences and they get it, they engage, and you know that it's working because you feed off the audience, Phil, don't you? But sometimes you have one of those days and it just doesn't happen. Nothing clicks. There is no engagement. And you walk away from that. It's a lonely old world, isn't it? Because you're waiting for somebody to pat you on the back and saying, listen, it was good, this, that. Sometimes it doesn't come.
Yeah.
And that really plays tricks with your mind. I'm sure you...
Yeah, wash my feet and call a priest, we used to say in the Catholic Church.
When you talk about eye of the tiger, when you said you came off that field when you were playing for the college against Newport, lost by 50 odd points, but you really enjoyed the game. But you said, as a true sort of leader, if you like, they'd have a different mindset. They wouldn't be happy with that at all. No. People like Alex Ferguson or Sir Alex wouldn't be happy with that. But there's an incident that again I picked up in your story, because you were really, whether you like it, whether you accept it or not is irrelevant. But I think you're funny. You're a funny guy. And when you're doing the pitch side commentating at Scrum 5, you make reference to, again, the great Alan Wynne-Jones. Now, he was a bit different, wasn't he? He was a proper leader. He certainly didn't like losing. You never quite knew what you were going to get when you interviewed him. But he didn't take kindly to you, did he, once upon a time, when he was running off the field of play? And your quote, Derek Quinnell did,
I gave the old Derek Quinnell. Yeah, it was Ospreys against Glasgow. I think it was at the Liberty Stadium. Yeah. And I did this, because I was a bit of a pioneer pitcher. I did things like interviewed players coming off the mat at half-time. I interviewed coaches in the stand. Now it's written into contracts. The coaches will put earphones on and the commentator will interview. Yeah. It was all done on trust I was the first one to do it.
And literally off the cuff.
Off the cuff, yeah. So Alan Wynne, he was the captain of the night, so I had an interview him coming off, and they played poorly in the first half. Yeah. And I'd run on the field and I'd walk off with the captain, and I said, well, Alan Wynne, what are your thoughts on that first half performance? Well, honestly, if looks could have killed, he just sort of looked at me, brushed me and the cameraman aside, with a Derek Quinnell, and I nearly fell into the chair. But I was able to compose myself, and it was great telly because you could see Alan Wynne literally snorting steam, really emotional, running off, and I said, well, as you can see there. Alan was not in the mood to talk, or words to that effect. But it got over the fact that he was mad.
Isn't it?
It's the real world.
Stage manage everything, and when you're having those sort of raw conversations in the heat of the battle, because that's what it is on a rugby field. When you cross that white line, you move into a different zone, and most people do. Yeah. In the heat of the battle, people, spectators, audiences, they want to see that, don't they?
Yeah.
I think so.
Another interesting thing about that pitch side report that I did for 15 years. Talk about turning up. People say to me, how did you get into telly? And I said, well, I was in my 40s when I first did. And I was still teaching then. It was 2005. I was still teaching part-time. I had a phone call, lying in bed on Sunday morning. I had a phone call about 7:30 from a Scrum 5 producer, Graham Thomas, who used to do it.
I remember Graham.
Yeah, has gone down with a illness. Can you get down to the BBC in Llandaff at 8 o'clock, because Jonathan Davis, his driver, will pick the both of you up, and Stuart Davis. Can you do our pitch side report? It was a live Sunday afternoon game. It was Scarlets were playing Leeds Rhinos at Headingley. So I went up
Right.
there. So I just answered the call, and they liked what I did. And then that's how I sort of got that the
But
gig.
you were still teaching at that time?
I was still teaching 3 days a week. But talking about turning up, I answered the phone. Now, a lot of people might have said, "Oh, do you know what? Sorry." But I sort of turned up, did the job. And that is an example. That's symbolic of my whole career, really. Answering that phone and going and doing it.
I remember I was speaking to Neil Boobier. He was running an event in Porthcawl. And I was meeting Neil and a friend of his who you know, Rob Summerhill, in a pub prior to getting to the Rafa Club where the event was being held. And unbeknown to me, you were going to be sort of facilitating and comparing the night. And I said to Neil, time was rolling on, I said, "Is Phil Steele, is he over?" I said, "How do you know he's there?" He said, "He's always there." He said, "He will always be there." He said, "Don't worry about that, he'll be there." So it comes across when you commit to doing things, you know, it comes across. People know how reliable you are. But doing that trip to Headingley, it's a breakthrough moment then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because in the podcast, No Straight Lines, we talk about defining moments, you know, those breakthrough moments. And sometimes you never know when it's going to happen. So the transition for you, from teaching into broadcasting, may never have happened if you hadn't have taken that up. If you hadn't picked up that phone call and taken that Headingley invitation.
Yeah. There was another one as well. When I first started working with the BBC in '95, I was teaching full time then.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, they cut the number of teams down from 16 in the Premier League to something like 12. And one was a 5:30 kickoff for S4C.
Yeah.
So there weren't enough games for freelancers to cover.
Okay.
It's my 31st season with the BBC coming up. I've always only ever been freelance, never had a contract, never had a staff job. And a producer called me and he said, "Look, we're not going to be able to give you any rugby this year. But do you fancy doing some League of Wales football?"
Brilliant.
On the Saturday after. So I said, now again, a lot of people might have said, "Oh, not really, no, I'm a rugby man, you know." So I said, "Yeah, I will." So I spent the whole season going to places like Newtown, Aberystwyth against Carnarvon Town. And what was my introduction to the match? Something like here at Parkview, Aberystwyth, or Bellevue Ground, Aberystwyth, whatever it was called, for the clash between the there's something to do with the royal family. It happened in the morning.
Okay.
It was a story about Prince Charles, and I said for a clash between the town where Prince Charles was educated against the town where he was invested, you know, Carnarvon, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so I tried to make it, and I did. I remember getting stuck in the snow at Newtown, going to Caersus against Cwmbran Town. There'd be about 50 people in the ground. I remember doing Inter Cardiff against somebody on the day that Wales played France in '96, and I could hear the crowd at the Arms Park, and I'm there at Inter Cardiff at just on a mobile phone. But I did it. I turned up, and next season, then the rugby came back. They put more teams in the league, and I was back on the rugby and off again.
But
you know?
see, that to me, it shouts out professionalism, because I know your true passion is rugby.
Yeah.
Big contract with the BBC. Well, I say contract, but working as a freelancer, covering, you know, all that pitch side commentary. Then the rugby's not there. Then they turn up with, let's be honest, I know football fans won't appreciate this, but League of Wales at that particular, well, certainly in terms of attendances, in terms of viewers, it was a different league, wasn't it? You know, and you effectively taking up, you know, the opportunity to, even though it might not have been the opportunity that you wanted, to just get on with it and do it, showed your professionalism, and then you got your just rewards because it came back the following year.
But my motivation for doing it was not, it keeps me on the air, or you know, I could go into football now. It was just, I didn't want to let the producer down who gave me the break in the first place 2 years previously. It's that sort of thing of not wanting to let people down, and
but even when you were
there.
trudging around, you know, there are no straight roads to Aberystwyth, are there really? You know, and some of those locations and some of those grounds you had to go to with football all over Wales. The fact that you keep turning up, when you actually got there, I know it's the round ball game as opposed to the over ball. Did you enjoy it?
I did. And I think I was saying this to somebody earlier, that for that 30 seconds or 45 seconds, and you might do 3 hits into the programme of 30 seconds each, quick score update, and you might do a a 45-second considered match report. Obviously, the Football League clubs took the brunt of the programme. But I used to think for that 45 seconds, I'm the only voice coming out of that radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to try and sort of make it interesting, make it fun, and you broadcast like your personalities. And I've always loved the humorous side of life and seen the funny side of life. So you broadcast like your personalities. So I like to think that, you know, I could make Kaiserslautern 0, Newtown 0, into a good 30-second match report, you know. Well,
it's important because there are people, they might be not be great numbers, but there are people listening to that. And if you can entertain them, because that's what you're doing.
Yeah, you're an entertainer, yeah.
Then that's what it's all about. Now, talking about entertainment, I got to go back to the Scrum 5 days. And I know we'll talk about setbacks and everything else, but I'm sure you were really disappointed when that contract came to an end. But before we discuss it, some of the highlights, standout highlights, and we've already mentioned being Derek Quinnell. Yeah. But what were you doing with Shane Byrne and that hairpiece?
Oh, that was it. Shane Byrne, I got to know him. Great. In fact, I saw him when he came over. We did a couple of gigs together for the Ireland game.
Yeah.
The first time I met Shane Byrne, Test Lion,
yes.
You know, icon of Irish rugby. Now, Shane's got a very interesting story. He was in the Irish squad at the age of 21 and never got capped until 29.
Wow.
In fact, he was dropped twice for having long hair. They wanted him to cut his hair. So talk about resilience there.
Yeah, and discipline back in the day.
And he became a Test Lion at something like 33, you know. I first met him, we covered Wales against Ireland under-20s in a place called Athlone on the night before Wales played Ireland in the Six Nations for Scrum 5. And the producer said, look, we got Shane Byrne as your pitch side guest. Look after him. So I said to him, Shane, I said, just to let you know, I said, Phil Steele, pitch side reporter, I said, just to let you know, a couple of us are going out for a few afterwards, if you fancy it, when we get back to Dublin. He said, no, Phil, I'm not coming out for a few, I'll come out for a lot. He said, and he did, you know, and we hit it off. We hit it off ever since. So anyway, so this was Leinster against Ospreys, I think it was, and the producer, a guy called Joe Towns, said to me, let's have a bit of fun. He said, you got Muncher, Shane Byrne. But he said, I'm going to give you a wig. He said, I wanted to, at half time, when you're doing your analysis with Shane, we'll cut to the crowd so you won't be on screen. Stick the wig on. We'll come back to you so you can carry on the interview with Shane, but don't make any mention at all of that. So we did this. So Shane, what were the Ospreys? Leinster leading by 2 tries to 1. What do you think the Ospreys will make of it at half-time? Well, Phil, you know, I think they need to get a bit more collision dominance, you know. And so they pan to the crowd, put the wig on, you know. They come back, and here's me with this wig. And you can get the photo. If you Google Phil Steele, Shane Byrne on the internet, you can see the photograph. So he comes back to me, and I piece the camera straight. Well, thank you, Shane. Obviously, good advice for the Ospreys. Let's hope they can do that in the second half. You've heard Shane there. It's all about possession and gain line for the Ospreys. Ross, back to Ross Harris in the studio, without any reference.
Mention to the mullet.
You can just see on his sort of lip turning up like that, you know, when he started to laugh. Ross makes no reference to it whatsoever, but all in the terrace of the RDS, the Royal Dublin Show, all applauded, you know, because obviously he's a legend.
Brilliant.
But that was just sort of.
But entertainment again.
What I used to try and do with Scrum 5 was to try and. I used to think. I've got the best seat in the house. There's the touch judge, there's the touch line, there's the touch judge, and then there's me. I don't really particularly want to tell them what's going on in the game. They got Jonathan and you know, much more erudite and intelligent rugby voices than me there. But I wanted used to try and get over to people watching at home what it's like to be at the game.
Absolutely.
Not just what's happening in what it's like to be at the game. So when you if you go and see Cardiff or you go and see the Scarlets, you don't go there just for the 80 minutes. No. You go there for the banter and you go there for the fun and have a laugh. So I used to try and get that over. You know, my love of the game and my love of rugby characters and the people who play the game. And
you did it remarkably well. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't know what they're doing with Scrum 5 these days. I'm completely out of touch with it. I don't even know if it's on air. But I think there's a massive void that they've left behind there. I know Welsh rugby has got huge issues at the moment, but you know, the opportunity has been lost, I think, by BBC in terms of, for whatever reasons, whether it's commercial reasons or whatever, to do. I don't know. Does it exist any longer? I don't think it does it?
It won't after this season, no. Because they've lost.
And I don't understand it, but like all good things, I think it'll come back. And I, during the time that you were there, 14 years was it, Phil?
I did that for 15 years. I did that pitch side report as well.
I think you did a brilliant job. But you also got into trouble on there, didn't you?
The hot tub.
Yes!
Yeah, hot tub, yeah. That was another one. The Scarlets had this idea that to get younger people involved, they'd put in a hot tub. They'd put university students could apply with their name and email. They'd draw random 4 of them out the hat, 2 boys, 2 girls. They'd have free beer, sandwiches, and watch the game in the hot tub.
So where the hell was the hot tub?
So the hot tub was behind the goals at Parker Scarlets. It was Rupert Moon's idea. He was the commercial manager at the time. And the producer said to me, do you fancy going in the hot tub? So I turn up. Even if I thought it was the most ridiculous idea, I don't let people down.
It was a steamy shop with Miss Kamalasha.
Miss Kamalasha was there as well. And and it was a terrible game. It was a November night. It was a terrible game. Both sides were below strength. I think it was during the autumn internationals. So Gareth Lewis, who was the presenter at the time, says, let's go down to pitch. They had Mike Phillips in the studio guest.
I bet he was disappointed.
Let's go down to pitch side. And Phil Steele. So all you could see is this steam and me with this beauty queen, Miss Carmarthenshire, in a bikini on my left, and these sort of 2 good-looking girls and boys in their early 20s, students there. And you wouldn't get away with it. I said to one of the boys, I said, what's the view like? He said, oh, the view's great. I said, and what about the pitch? So you wouldn't get away with that now. Miss Carmarthenshire gave me a kiss. I said, thank you, Natasha. I said, for inviting me. And she said, no problem, Phil, in a lovely Clantley accent. No problem, Phil. It's every girl's dream to be interviewed by you on Scum 5. And gave me a kiss on the cheek. Give me a kiss on the cheek.
You're talking about lack of confidence. You must have gone through the roof.
So I looked at camera, and I said to the camera, to Gareth, I said, there we are, Gareth, I might not be available for the second half. You wouldn't get away with it now. Well, even Mike Phillips in the studio was laughing, So so that was it. It went viral. It became like an internet sensation at about 250,000 hits overnight.
But it's real life, Phil, isn't it?
And talking about getting over to people what it's like to be at the game. If you were at that game, somebody would say to you in the pub afterwards, what was it like? Oh, the Scarlets won, terrible game. Could never get it. They had a blooming hot tub there.
And Phil Steele was in it?
Or whatever. They had this hot tub. It's something to talk about, to tell your mates, So I just used to try and reflect that,
Well, look, the broadcasting career has been very kind to you, and you've done a brilliant job. You still keep your hand in. You still do a lot of after-dinner speaking. And again, you do a great job on that. And as I said at the outset of this conversation today, you're at the Arms Park later on. So I'm going to ask you this quick question. And I know it's a difficult one, and in Welsh rugby, everybody's got an opinion. But your top 3 best Welsh rugby union players during your lifetime?
During my lifetime? The Welsh, Barry John would be up there as my favourite.
Fly half,
yeah.
But why? Why Barry?
Because what he did on the Lions Tour, the only Lions Tour to ever win in New Zealand, I'm very honoured. I got to know him. He wrote a lovely testimonial for my book. I got to know him very well, an absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
Barry would be there. Gareth Edwards for his...
Sir Gareth.
Sir Gareth for his achievements and how he transcended rugby.
And that try, of course.
And which try? Yeah, the one against Scotland in '72.
Well, there's that one when he turned orange, didn't he?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
And then there's that try.
And then the Barbars in '73. I was there. I was a Form 1 kid, 30 pence for a North Enclosure ticket,
But Gareth, and we could talk all day about these guys, but he was quite unique. I'm not, you know more about rugby than me, but I don't think his pass was the greatest, but he was an explosive character.
Yeah,
he had
great athlete,
Great athlete.
And his pass became fabulous as when he started. It was his Achilles heel. He says that in his book.
Yeah.
But as he developed,
but what a leader as well.
Yeah, what a leader, fabulous. But the third one would be, you could talk about Shane Williams, you could talk about Gerald Davis, JPR, Jonathan, Jiffy, Scott Gibbs. But the one that always I loved was a player called Di Morris, who played 34 times for the Neath back row. Probably the greatest cult hero that Welsh rugby's ever produced, and just the most popular player. And I've been to Di's house, and I'm on first name terms with him. Just to talk about
Is he from Ricos?
From Ricos, yeah. Talk about like a gentleman, just the most
Hard
humble, a real tough man, but the most gentle, unassuming.
And I remember him. I was a kid, but I can remember him playing in the back row in that Welsh team. Was he a British Lion?
No, he never went on the Lions.
Never went on the Lions tour.
No, so it would be those three: Barry, Sir Gareth, and Di.
Now I know you're enjoying life at the moment in equatorial Taftswell, as you call it.
Yeah.
And I know you, because you've mentioned it and you're public about it. I think you remarried in 2013.
Yeah, lost my first wife when I was 48. Yeah, just after I'd finished teaching.
Do you mind if we touch upon that?
Yeah.
So, what happened for you? In 2009, I think your wife died. I think because again you've written it. I think she had cancer. Is that right?
Yeah, she had a brain tumour. She died in 5 weeks. June the 5th, diagnosed. July the 10th, died secondary brain tumour. And then I kissed a few frogs, because Liz was my first proper relationship. We met when I was 21, and at 48, I thought perhaps life. What happens now?
Well, listen, I can't start to comprehend how people deal with that type of impact, that just curveball or explosion that happens in their lives. And we touched upon resilience, but whether you think you have it, whether you've learned it, whether you're still working on it, that how the hell did you get over that?
You keep on keeping on. Scrum 5 was a great help to me. She died in the July, and of course you get lots of phone calls, visitors for 2 or 3 months, and then they tail off, and September comes, and the nights start drawing in, and I'd look in the diary, and I'd have Thursday, be at Cardiff Airport, 10:30 flight to Dublin, because we're going to cover Leinster against Scarlets, whatever, or Glasgow, or Treviso, and it was like being on a rugby tour with those people. Gareth Charles, the commentator, Stuart Davis, a guy called Gareth Grono, who was assistant producer, Richard Jones, who was a floor manager, Riddy and John, who was a floor manager, Ross Harris, Joe Towns, producer. All those type of people, they became family. Family.
Things happen in life, and that was a tragedy to say the least. And I think it's important. I lost my dad a couple of years ago. There's no comparison, but I know that how I managed to get through that was by having good people around me, family. And
friends. Again, it's this thing of, I say it again, keeping on. I kept working. I kept doing the dinners. I just kept going. Even though it was tough. The worst thing I found was coming home to an empty house. Even though my daughter was back from university then, so I used to leave the radio on. So I'd come in and there'd be some noise in the house. But I just kept going, kept socialising,
Well, that says everything about your character. And we started off this conversation this morning. We were talking about turning up, keep carrying on, and you've done it right throughout your life, from school and the values that you were obviously brought up within the Catholic Church, right the way through to even when you were as a rugby player, as you said, it wasn't about 80 minutes. It was there for the full day.
Yeah. I'd always train. I'd always turn up training. I'd always. If you had to be at the club at 2:00 for a home game, 3:00, I'd be there at 1:15. That sort of thing.
And you carved out a brilliant teaching career, and then you felt there was something else. You are a very funny guy. You do entertain people. And I've seen you at numerous events, and I think you're brilliant. I don't think there's anybody else can sort of command and take care of an audience like that, particularly in some of these venues around the valleys, who was able to do that with such finesse as you, and you do it really well. And you connect, and that's the most important thing. And you're still doing it. Hence, you're going to this event now this afternoon. But I think that what comes across in this interview anyway, it's not always been about doing well. You've kept turning up. You've had setbacks. A contract finished on Scrum 5. You've had tragedy in your life. What's next for Phil Steele? What's the next sort of 3, 4, 5, 10 years going to be, Phil?
Well, I'll keep on keeping on. That's for certain. I've remarried. I've been remarried now for 12 years to a lovely girl from Pembrokeshire called Kate. I want to travel a lot. We do a big holiday every January, so I want to travel a lot. Still do the speaking, but these days I tend to be a bit more circumspect. I don't take the booking if I don't think it's going to be suitable for me. I mean, I've been to all sorts of places over the years, I can remember talking about more people afraid of speaking in public than they are of dying, and I've done both in the same half hour. I remember doing a gig in about 2004 for the Chartered Institute of Purchase and Supply,
Oh my God.
Southeastern branch.
Oh dear.
Black tie dinner in the Grosvenor in London.
Okay.
Two of us on. I was the first speaker. Well, as soon as I was introduced to somebody from Wales,
Yeah.
I had 400 blokes doing sheep's noises, shouting out sheep, shagger, you know, blah, blah. Longest half hour of my life. And I thought, do I really need this? Should I just give it up? But I didn't. I turned up next week, whoever it was.
Keep on keeping on.
Keep. So I'm very circumspect. So most of the functions I do these days are enjoyable because I know
You
that
pick and
I
choose.
pick and choose, you know. I do about probably 20 commentaries a year for S4C, Red Button, English language, and for Radio Wales as well. I'm doing the Japan,
Sure.
second test of Japan. Not that we'll go to Japan, we'll do it from the studio.
I want you to make me a promise. You keep on keeping on because you do a great job. I think you've made a massive impact on the broadcasting world in Wales. And despite, you know, we've all got our demons, you've got plenty. You manage it really, really, really well. And if you're looking at your confidence, take it from me. And I'm giving you this feedback as an individual person who watches you. You're a legend, as far as I'm concerned, in this part of the world. Thank you very much for coming along today, Phil.
Cheers, Lawrence. It's
Thank you very
been
much.
a pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed.